So we're here. We're gonna do it. Before we get to Wrestle Dreams, that's gonna be our main topic, and then we're gonna close the show out with us reminiscing about Hulk Hogan versus Ric Flair from 1994. The three match series that they had, and I also want to talk about Hogan signing with WCW in general, because it is the 25th anniversary, right? So no, the 30th.
30th.
Shit, 30th anniversary. Oh, gosh, man, that long.
Fucking old.
I know, the 30th anniversary. So I want to talk about that. But JD, on Thursday night, you went on a rant about how crappy Jimmy Jacobs and RD Evans, and not just them, the whole writer's room, how crappy they are in AEW. And we also took Tony Khan to task because it's his company. Ultimately, everything that gets on TV is up to him. He is the head booker. He is the dude over there. So we took them to task. And but Jimmy Jacobs has kind of been in the butt of a lot of our jokes and a lot of our venom, dating back to our Brace for Impact podcast. So this is nothing new for us. And then Friday night, he ended up, it was announced that he had left AEW. It was reported that it was his decision, but we were all kind of like, he definitely got fired, but then Dave Meltzer on Sunday night reiterated, I think so did Brian Alvarez. They both reiterated, no, this was his decision. He's a well-liked guy. Whatever it is, he's gone from the company. And I had the chance to talk about it on Brace for Impact on Saturday morning, and our video is almost up to 1,000 views. So please keep watching that, share it. I would greatly appreciate that. But JD, man, what do you think about this whole deal?
I wish I had $10 million because I have that kind of magic power and I cannot steer it to a way that benefits me. So that's what's unfortunate. No, I got that. Do you know how many tags I had on Friday night? I opened up Twitter when I got to the hotel and I literally had like 43 tags in my mentions. Like I had so many people tagging me in various Jimmy Jacobs gone tweets.
Yeah.
It just cracked me up. So apparently this is my thing. I have spoken ad nauseum about my absolute hatred for the TNA product or the Impact product at the time when we reformatted to the Mike and JD show. I have said this 1,000 times. Taylor Wilde playing with the tarot cards on at ringside during a match just broke me. It absolutely broke me from the show. I had a meltdown. It might have been one of the first good old JD meltdowns on a show.
Yeah.
And I remember saying, I can't do this anymore. And we had rebranded and reshuffled, and they announced a week later that Jimmy Jacobs had gone to AEW. And I was like, you got to be fucking kidding me. You
can't escape this motherfucker.
That's exactly how I felt. So he has been the brunt of my frustrations and anger toward the company that I like the most for the last 2 years, to the point that I did not watch the pay-per-view. I have not watched the pay-per-view yet. It's the second AEW pay-per-view that I've missed. From what I gather, it was pretty good. I will go back and see it. I did have family stuff going on this weekend. So I just haven't had the time yet. I will watch it this week. I think he was bad for the company. I really, really do. I think his sensibilities for professional wrestling are shit. I think that he's not right for what AEW was supposed to be about. I remember about a year ago, I posted a picture of Grima Wormtongue, who, if you're not a complete and total nerd, you don't know that Grima Wormtongue is the guy who whispered in the king's ear during I can't remember the king's name. The king of now I'm drawing a blank. In Lord of the Rings, the guy who keeps the king kind of in a hazy trance-like state. So he's evil. He's an evil whisperer. So I tweeted a picture of that and I said, this is Tony Khan and Jimmy Jacobs. And again, got some flack for it, but I got some laughs too. So he takes the brunt of a lot of my AEW frustrations. Now RD Evans is there too. And now he is going to take the brunt of my AEW frustrations because these are two guys that don't belong in this corner of professional wrestling.
Right.
I watched this show and it's stuff like this has been leaving me cold since the MJF babyface run, right? Maximania, as we dubbed it about a year ago. Yeah. And I blame him for a lot of it. And then I think it was Ibu that posted a lot of stuff after the fact.
He did. And I summarized that in an article on the Patreon. So everybody go check that out. And I did correct it because Ibu said he was misquoted in one of the things. He didn't call me out specifically. He called a bunch of people out. So I reread my article. I was like, oh shit, I did that too. So let me fix that. So but it is
Which one?
pretty up to date.
Which one did he did? It was not attributed to him. It turned out I missed that.
Um, so the rankings going away. So Ibu said that Jimmy Jacobs was not a fan of the rankings, and people took that as Jimmy Jacobs got rid of the rankings. And Ibu said that is not true. He wasn't a fan of it. CM Punk wasn't a fan of it. A lot of people in the room were not a fan of the rankings, and that's why they went away. Jimmy Jacobs was just one of the voices that didn't like it. So, so I made sure to just take that out of the article completely
Okay.
because, yeah, I mean, he's not alone in that. There was a lot of people there that didn't like those rankings.
Yeah, those people are sissies. Um, I just don't. I mean, like I said, like a lot of my I said this last week. I said apathy is a much harsher killer than anger. Like if you're angry about something, you still have passion for it. If you're apathetic about it, it means you've kind of just lost interest, right? And
Mhm.
you don't care anymore. And I have been leaning hard on apathy for this company for about a year, and then they'll get me. And then they'll slide again, and then they'll get me back, and they'll slide again. You read stuff like Jimmy Jacobs didn't know who Kazuchika Okada was, right?
Yeah, so that was also kind of a misinterpreted. It's not
Oh,
that he didn't know him. He just wasn't like that familiar with his work. He doesn't watch New Japan Pro Wrestling, but he knew who he was. He just didn't kind of know and understand the aura of Okada.
so that's a problem. That's a
Yeah.
problem with this company. Quite, like, I'm not gonna take him off the hook for that. Like then you have WWE brain, and our buddy Jeremy Feinstone. I'll give him the credit for this. He's the one who said, "Is Jimmy Jacobs the AEW Vince Russo?" And I laughed, and then I couldn't really argue it, to be quite honest with you, because I do think that a lot of the bad ideas from AEW, there've always been bad ideas with this company. Don't get me wrong. Let us not forget Nightmare Brandy,
Yeah.
but a lot of the recent stuff has been him. It's got his fingerprints all over it. So, Ding Dong, the witch is fucking dead.
Yeah, you know what? And I think the point of Ibu's like updating of what he was saying is and I agree with him. Jimmy Jacobs was just one guy that was a
Mhm.
part of the rot in the creative of the company. When they get to the pay-per-views rule. Because I think that like by the time it comes to pay-per-view day, like Tony says he what matches he wants, and then he kind of tells them everybody like how he wants them to go, and then the wrestlers just go out there and kick ass.
Mhm.
So the pay-per-view is always very good, which was the case with Wrestle Dream, but connecting the dots and getting to there has been a problem. There's a lack of continuity issues. There's people turning face and heel without any reason. People just appearing to be faces or heels and no real explanation for it.
Adam Cole,
And
baby.
then starting and stopping of factions and stories and no explanation for that either. The creative direction of the company has been a mess. The connective tissue between the pay-per-views has been a mess. The only thing that's really been saving the company, keeping anybody's interest, is the fact that Will Ospreay can go out there and have a match of the year candidate every single night, right? And that the Young Bucks can go out there with Private Party and have another like classic match, right? Like that's what's keeping the company afloat as far as like interest level goes. But the connective tissue has just been bad. And look, Jimmy Jacobs is just one guy that's a part
Mhm.
of that problem. But he was Tony's right hand man. He was like his main assistant. Ibu says that he was the head writer on Dynamite. Dave Meltzer had refuted that. I'm going to side with Ibu on this one because I think that Ibu is kind of more plugged in with some of the people on the creative team right now. A lot of what he's been saying has kind of ultimately come out to be true. And a lot of the more veteran journalists have had to come and correct some stuff because Ibu has put out more information. I'm going to trust what Ibu says on this one just because I've been following him closely. We happen to be friendly with the guy, so it's also helpful. But I have a feeling that he's correct on this one.
I think you're right. I think Ibu's younger voice. I think Ibu talks to a lot of people, and we know that. We've spoken to the guy. He has a lot of
Yeah.
sources. And if Ibu says this guy was the head writer, or at least told people or fashioned himself the head writer, that's probably accurate. I think there's probably some because like Dynamite and Collision have a different vibe. You can't
Mm-hmm.
argue that. And Dynamite does lean more or has, I should say, leaned more sports entertainment. All I'm hoping is that with Jimmy Jacobs gone, the influence of guys like a John Moxley can return because Moxley's influence on the company is when he is engaged and invested, you can see it. It permeates the company. Um, I think part of the problem is they have a creative team now. And when you have a team of people, this happens. In WWE, it's always different because it was always Vince's show. And like if you got too much power, you were gone, right? Like,
Yeah.
but you would still have their creative footprints on stuff. Like if you listen to Between the Sheets, like Bix and Chris will always talk about like this is this guy's era, this is when Stephanie was writing, because you can see the directions in the show. And I think that we'll start to see something. Now the next step is get rid of RD fucking Evans.
Yeah. Well,
I'm coming for you now.
yeah. Yeah. IPWF, RD Evans, the Impact Provincial Wrestling Federation. That was the brainchild of RD Evans.
He's worse than Jimmy Jacobs, quite frankly. Like
yeah.
his instincts are pure garbage. I cannot stand this man's work.
Yeah.
I hope he's run out in a short train out of here. Because I feel like this is like they say Pepperman when she got on board, she invested herself heavily into understanding the company and the characters. And Jimmy Jacobs just wanted to do Jimmy Jacobs shit. Like I'm from WWE. You're gonna I'm gonna butter up Tony Khan and get him Pepsi so that I can do what I think. And it worked for a long time.
Yeah.
So here's the question to you, Mike. How do we fix this? What does we freaking power, but like what does AEW, what does Tony Khan have to do? You've rid yourself with one problem, you've pruned the tree a bit. How do we go forward to make that bonsai look terrific?
Well, they got to do some more pruning, right? So if you got anybody that's on your team that's got Vince brain, they got to go. They just have to go. And I'm talking about in the creative team. They really just have to be gone. There's other companies that they could work for. I hate coming after people and having them lose their jobs, but this affects me because I watch the show and I want to be entertained, which is a cold asshole-ish thing to say. But look, if you think about it, JD, last week, AEW Dynamite, Collision, and Rampage combined, the 3 shows combined netted less viewers than one single episode of NXT. And NXT is their third brand, right? So you had 3 of your shows in prime time couldn't even equal an episode of NXT last week. And then immediately after, Jimmy Jacobs is gone, and now they're telling me that he wasn't fired, that he just left on his own accord. If he did leave on his own accord, then you're out of your fucking mind, Tony Khan, because you need to make some changes. They got to gut the creative team, right? They got to gut that out. They need new ideas, fresh ideas that have not been tainted, by the WWE. And I already advocated for him on Brace for Impact. I'm going to advocate for my guy again here. I think they need to bring in John Muse. I think John Muse, Will Washington, Tony Khan, and then you get a couple of other guys that have never been to WWE. They just have these new and fresh ideas. Bring them in also, but John also understands the history of wrestling. So he has that context to him. I think you had him. And then I think you take a look at the roster, and I think if you got like all these over 40 over the hill jobbers collecting paychecks, John Morrison, you know what I mean? Like dudes like that have just kind of permeated throughout the roster, making them have the older roster than WWE per capita. They're way older by percentage than WWE. And so now AEW is the older, less hip company, and now WWE is the younger and hipper brand right now. That's a fucking problem. Right. So AEW doesn't need to get older. They're already the pro wrestling Noah of the US brand. They got to start cutting out these 40 and 50-year-olds that aren't really adding to the bottom line, that are taking away from the company, and start bringing in younger, fresher, hipper talent and start getting behind those guys. It's fucking 5 years too late on Private Party. I'm sorry, guys. They haven't gotten good enough. They tried again with the Young Bucks. They lost. They're going to go right back to the bottom of the heap. And that's just the way that's going to happen for those guys. They got to get younger, fresher, and hipper talent and get rid of a lot of these old dudes. And we need some better ideas.
I agree 100%. I wasn't going to say it because I didn't want to be too big of homers, but if you went there, I'll go there too. Yeah. I think John Muse is a guy they should bring in. We're biased. I'll be the first one to admit it. I'm going to fight for my friend because I've had 100 conversations with him and I know how his brain operates. He's one of the finest professional wrestling minds that I've ever had the pleasure of speaking to. I know how creative, and I know he's got an analytical mind. Like I'm a dude who's got like a bazillion creative thoughts, but I have like ridiculous ADHD and I have to like, lasso one of them and pull. And John's not like that. John lives and dies on spreadsheets. Like John understands the nature of balance. John understands the nature of organization. Like he's a tech guy by trade. So he understands He understands systems and he understands analytics, which is what I think they need. They've got a lot of idea guys there. And while John has a lot of great ideas, I think his natural skill set would lead there. Now, I will say save Pepperman because I
Yeah.
do think that the AEW women's division has seen a significant uptick in both match quality and story quality since she's taken over. We took her to task for hiring initially. I was reached out to and told, hey, you're wrong about this. This is her. And I will, as from a person that I trust, so I will take them at their word.
Yeah.
And I will say that the division all around has been a bright spot in 2024.
All in. They carried All In.
They sure did.
The
I was there. Yeah. I think that Pepperman can stay. I think RD Evans has got to go. I think anyone else who comes from the WWE has got to go. I want to see. I think Will Washington is a guy who I think might be gaining a lot more power over there. And he's not from that system. So I think he's a guy that you keep. I don't think anybody who's ever sat under Vince's learning tree, needs a place here. I don't think so. I think we need fresh ideas. I would love to see the entire format of the professional wrestling show blown up and do something completely different, because I'm sick of seeing Eric Bischoff's ideas of what a pro wrestling show should be, because that's what we've been seeing since 1995. It's been almost 30 years. Go ahead.
Which is funny because Eric Bischoff was the guy that blew up the format for professional wrestling shows. He turned it on its ass
100%
and did an amazing job. It needs to happen again. And AEW is the company that we want to do that, because I think they have the resources. They got the financial backing. They're profitable now. Now is the time. Don't just rest on your laurels because you got your money.
Mm-hmm.
Now you actually got to get out there and kind of rethink what you're doing.
I don't believe for a second that Jimmy Jacobs wasn't fired. I don't believe, or at least they came to terms that he might have left because he might have felt that his influence might be slipping. Like, I don't believe that this was an amicable leave, because you don't leave a comfortable job where you're getting paid a lot of money. Nobody does that unless they're completely freaking miserable. Maybe he was, but I mean, I still see his fingerprints all over things. So I know that's the story, but I mean, you're a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah, what Meltzer was saying is because he was literally traveling everywhere with Tony, and he just couldn't hang anymore. He was burnt out on the travel, but I don't know, man.
I don't buy it. I'll be honest. You could tell me you're burnt. If you're burnt out, sure, but you don't burn out when you're feeling great about stuff, when things are working. When you burn out when shit sucks, and his shit sucked. So I think they need a fresh coat of paint. I think you need fresh minds. I would like to say, like I said, blow up the whole concept of how a live professional wrestling show looks in 2024, because it's old and it's boring right now, and I want to see something new and different. I'm tired of disliking my hobby, and the fact that Jimmy Jacobs is gone is the first step in the right direction. RD Evans, that executioner's blade is looking for you next, my friend.
Yeah, one of the things, and we'll close out the segment on this, one of the things that Ibu said about the writing room as it is right now is they're not presenting ideas because they think they're good ideas. They're just presenting idea after idea after idea for job security, job preservation, to let Tony know that they're working. Right.
It's Vince shit. That's shit people would do under Vince. That's not good. That's not a healthy creative environment. I could speak to that. Just because you have ideas doesn't mean you should go through with them. I get a million ideas a day. Most of them suck ass. You have to have a filter. You have to have an editor. You have to have a hatchet man that can look people in the eyes and go, dude, your idea fucking sucks.
Yeah. And that's why they need somebody to come in. It's not like a job to them. They're actually passionate about it. They want to be there. Mm-hmm. And I've already advocated for them before, so I'm not going to embarrass them anymore, but
hashtag hire John Muse. Ooh, that should be a thing, actually. Hashtag hire John Muse.
I almost did it, but then I was like, I don't want to blow up a spot.
No, I don't either. But I thought it was funny.
Yeah. But
he's gonna be so mad at us when he listens.
He is. Yeah, we're gonna
kill us. It's gonna be great.
Text, yeah. But look, we always advocate for our friends. So